Hobby Quick Hits. Delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Welcome to episode 111 of Hobby Quick Hits. Today's topic, alternative locations for the National. Now, we all know that the National has three venues they're predominantly using right now for the National: Chicago, Cleveland, and Atlantic City, which will be this year's National, where that's taking place. Cleveland had an issue with their convention center, so they were a little bit out of the loop, but I believe they're back in. But, it's three cities. You got Cleveland and Chicago, kind of centrally located in the Midwest, if you want to call it that. And then, Atlantic City here on the East Coast. Now, for me, I know a lot of people have complained, Atlantic City, not the greatest city in the world, and all that stuff. But for me, I'm a little, selfish in the fact that it's driving distance for me. So I don't have to fly. I can bring more stuff. I'll have my car to go to maybe any off-site events, that sort of thing. So I'm a little spoiled there. But, there's plenty of other cities that would, could be viable to hold the National. And that's what this episode's going to be about. I did a poll on Twitter where I gave 4 cities I kind of would like to see get the National if possible. Had over 1,200 votes. I'll give you all that info during the segment. Also, I'm part of another show called Hobby Hotline. Some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you may not. For those not familiar, it's a show that we do, a bunch of us podcasts and content creators. I think we're up to 20. It's a show we do on Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, and Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. And 3 hosts on each of the shows. They rotate, so we have some different faces, different voices on each episode. People are able to call in if they so choose, and there's obviously a chat room during the episode. It's live, and there's a chat room that's usually pretty busy and on fire, especially lately. So real thankful for that. Well, a recent episode of that, I wasn't on it, but this topic came up, and I love some of that dialogue. So I'm actually going to use some of that dialogue during the segment. It's John Keating, Mike Moynihan, and YamWax. It was the episode they were on, I believe, March 29th, and this subject came up. And I wanted to use some of what they said in this episode, and because I thought it was very insightful and I almost wanted to be on that episode, but want to use some of that dialogue and then kind of interject my own in the process, and so that'll be during the main topic. But before we start the show, let's hear from our great sponsor, Mojo Break. Then we'll go over all the hobby news, Q&A, new releases, and then we'll tackle alternative locations for the National.
MojoBreakShop.com is the best place to get your sealed wax products and brakes. They not only have the best selection, but the best prices. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they are your guys. They ship worldwide to your doorstep. Their reputation as one of the most trusted in the hobby goes unmatched. They are the 2021 Topps Rip Party Champion Breakers. From sports card to Pokemon cards, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders.
Hey guys, John Newman here. Mojo's prices are already great, but to save an additional 10% off anything in their store, use the code QUICKHITS. That's QUICKHITS. Check out the full service store that's open 7 days a week in Santa Clara, California, or the website at mojobreak.com. hobbyquickhits.com.
Hi guys, it's Owen from the Sports Card Shop. Today I'm going to go through the weekly releases. On 5/11, we have 2021-22 Panini Crown Royale Basketball. And then we also have Panini Donruss Diamond Kings Baseball, Topps Dynasty Formula 1 Racing, and Topps Tribute Baseball. And on the 13th, we have 2022 Leaf Stitches in Slabs Baseball and 2021-22 Panini Collegiate Draft Picks Basketball Choice. Enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Oh, I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Sports Card Nation. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. Today's question comes from, by way of Twitter, Ed asks, John, do you think Major League Baseball's deal with Apple TV will bring more people to the hobby and make baseball more popular? Well, I'll be honest with you. Baseball does need a shot in the arm. Apple is a major company, as we all know, with a huge following. So sure, I'm sure that is going to increase the viewership. How much? I don't know, quite frankly. As far as, hobby influx, again, I think what I read, 65 to 70% of people have or use Apple products. So I think much of potential hobby user base is already sort of using the platform, using the Apple technology. So probably, I'm sure there'll be some new people in the hobby that watch baseball on Apple TV, but I don't know if watching baseball on Apple TV will be the reason they get into the hobby. I don't know. Everyone's different. It's definitely not going to hurt. That's the easy answer. And it's a great deal for baseball, which needs all the PR, good PR they can get. We just, recently had the, Trevor Bauer 2-year suspension. I'm not going to go off. I could go off on a tangent about that. I'm not going to. I'll keep kind of my opinions close to the vest there. I'll just say that's an unprecedented suspension for a non-conviction. Trevor Bauer's not a good guy. I'm not defending the guy. I'm just talking about that. We've seen some of the young players sort of struggle out the gate. Some again for more than the first time. Joe Adell, Jared Kelenic, second year struggling again. Joe Adell sent down. Kelenic striking out about 40 to 45% of the time. But then you got other stories too, right? Your young guys, Wander Franco, Luis Robert, both smacking the ball around at a pretty good clip. So, but baseball, a lot of people say it's boring, too long, so they need, they need some good PR. The Apple TV deal is not going to obviously hurt them. It's going to help them. I think the hobby impact, Ed, will be minimal. I'm not saying there won't be new people in the hobby. I just don't think the Apple TV deal is going to be a big factor in that. It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, kind of a quiet news week in comparison to previous weeks, but there are some stories. The biggest one we'll lead off with. On Monday, eBay announced they're expanding their authenticity guarantee program. They've partnered with PSA, believe it or not. So anytime anyone purchases a graded card, that sells for $2,000 or more, that card is going to be sent to PSA, a core group separate from the grading room. So it won't take away from those who are already grading to try to catch up on the backlog. This new group, this new core group, will examine the graded card no matter what company. It could be PSA themselves, it could be SGC, it could be Beckett, it could be CSG, it could be any other slab that sells for more than $2,000, and PSA is going to give their seal of approval before it gets sent to the buyer. What are they looking for? Well, authenticity of the slab, that it's intact, and that sort of thing. I don't know about you. I do find it sort of odd that, PSA employees are going to authenticate an SGC graded card, a Beckett graded card, or another company's graded card. Could they, I don't expect this to happen, but, if they wanted to play hardball or make another company look bad, the opportunity could present itself here. And let's say they do find a tampered or non-authentic slab from another company, right? It's a great opportunity for them to make a big deal about it. I don't know if there's some sort of thing in the contract where it's, kept on the download. I like to think so, as far as them coming out and saying, yeah, see, we found this. And it's one thing to authenticate it, but to kind of smear another company in the process. And I don't expect that to happen, but I do find it sort of odd that it's going to be PSA potentially grading other competitive grading company slabs because they sell for $2,000 or more. And don't look now, this service will eventually go down to the $250 level. So anytime a graded card sells for $250 or more, that's eventually what this level is going to get to. And right now, it's a free service. Now, eBay is paying CSG for the raw cards and PSA for these graded cards over $2,000. But eventually, that cost is going to be passed down to the consumers, meaning the buyers and sellers. It might be split between the two parties, or it may just be 100% on the seller. But we'll see when that day comes. So that's the big story of the week. A few more. A Kobe Bryant rookie jersey from the Lakers playoff run, photo matched, is set to go on the auction blocks at SCP Auctions, and it's expected to garner between $3 and $5 million, becoming one of the highest grossing jerseys yet. So look forward to that, and we'll see what the final bid brings. We talk about card shows, right, expanding, and more of them in locales that we've never seen them before. Well, add Fenway Park to that list. A show will take place May 14th and 15th at the Fenway Park. The Red Sox will not be in town, and it's at the 521 Overlook location. It kind of overlooks Fenway Park with some great views. 7,600 square feet. Brought to you by Big Time Productions. The show will run 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on May 14th and May 15th. So the Fenway Park Card Show, and now it would be interesting to see, would this start a new trend with maybe card shows in ballparks. I believe last year there was one in a minor league park, and truth be told, I've last year inquired about doing one here at our local AAA stadium for the Syracuse Mets. Didn't get much of a response, and maybe it's something to look into again now that it's becoming maybe a little more trendy. So stay tuned even on that front.
And now, our feature presentation.
So as the National is approaching, I was thinking, I like Chicago. I've never been to Cleveland. I've been to Atlantic City, but not for the National. But it's sort of been a 3-city rotation as of late. I thought, well, what other cities could they, have this event in, and maybe what other cities I like to see the National in. And the first thought, being a New Yorker, I thought New York City, but I know, logistically, I know that's very tough. I also believe they count like Atlantic City as sort of the, tri-state area and a New York City type show. So I thought of 4 cities, and I did a Twitter poll where I had people do one of 2 things: either vote for one of those 4 cities, or in the comments, write a city you would, they would like to see it in. And I got almost 1,200 votes. I've run polls before. I've never gotten this many votes on the question. A very close race. Well, let me tell you the 4 cities I selected that I would kind of like to see and think it's possible to do. Easy for me to say, right? But the 4 cities I picked were New Orleans, St. Louis, Phoenix, and Seattle. And like I said, almost 1,200 votes. The winner was St. Louis with 30%. Second was Phoenix at 25%. Third was New Orleans at 23%. And Seattle was fourth at 22%. But very close. Last place was 22%. First place was 30%. So only 8% separated first from last. All kind of in the mix. I voted personally for New Orleans. I've never been there. I'm a foodie. Cajun Creole food. It's right up my alley. Jazz music. Sporting, you get your Saints and Pelicans, depending, on the time of year. And so that was my pick. But I'd be fine with any of these 4 cities, quite frankly. That's why I made them the 4 candidates. But I got a ton of commented votes. And here are some of these cities that got a lot of feedback in comment votes: San Diego, Orlando, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Nashville, and Dallas. Dallas even got a couple votes, even though they have the Dallas Card Show. We got a lot of response, even a couple for Boston, if my memory serves me correctly. And so, I like to travel, so I'd like to see some of these, cities potentially, be host for the National. As you heard Ray, some weeks back say there's a lot that goes into these. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, we're doing it in this town. There's a lot in play here. But it's all right to discuss, some other cities maybe we'd like to see the National in. And someday, a different city is going to probably get the event. Then on the March 29th Hobby Hotline show, that's a live call-in podcast that I'm part of. I wasn't on the show, but on the 29th, John Keating from that 70s card show, Mike Moynihan, baseball card collector on YouTube and from Bench Clear Media, and YamWax were on that show, and this very topic came up. Not the whole show, but a segment of the show. And so I wasn't on the show, and I heard the show. I didn't hear it live, but I heard it afterwards. But they made some, really good points, and I would have loved to have been on the show to kind of, banter with them and put in my 2 cents. And then I thought, why not use some of that audio? I'm a part of that show to kind of put into this episode and kind of then interject some of my thoughts based on that dialogue. So that's what I'm going to do next. You're going to hear, those folks speak on different things. I'll stop it and then kind of interject my own thoughts, whether I agree, disagree, that sort of thing.
Do y'all like the idea of rotating cities?
Listen, I've been to, this is a bit of a stretch, but I've been to every convention center in the country. There's no reason why they can't have it in, DeKay, Bailey, Hutchinson. There's no reason they can't have it in St. Louis. There's no reason they can't have it in Atlanta. They have reasons for their rotation, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with sweetheart deals with the buildings and or some of the labor unions. So I understand that part, but to say that we don't understand why it has to be in specific cities. I mean, Chicago, they have it. It's not even the biggest convention center in the city. McCormick Place is the biggest convention center in the country, which is downtown Chicago. So it can be, they could broaden their horizons, but obviously they've done their market research and they've dialed it in the way they've dialed it in.
All right, you heard Mike Moynihan kind of kick off their segment, and that was John Keating from that 70s card show with his thoughts about, it can be done in different arenas. I do agree with him. And, he mentioned sweetheart deals. I think the National, the rumor is that Atlantic City, they don't even pay for the convention center. I don't know whether that's true. That's just what I heard. But, they're going to get deals. Now, listen, I don't blame them if they're getting a deal to take advantage of that. But that doesn't mean we still can't have it, in other places. I don't have, let's just hypothetically say Atlantic City is giving them the venue for free. I get it. Why wouldn't you do that? It's just smart business. But that also doesn't mean you can't have it in a St. Louis or a San Diego, potentially, and, so the sweetheart deals don't bother me. It's just maybe, why we don't have it, in more places.
And I hear the reasons that they keep it on the East Coast because of just the density of dealers that are on the East Coast as well. But New Orleans, that'd be another fun location. Great convention center.
Yeah, that's a massive convention center. But all the cards would get stuck together from the humidity.
That's true.
So the cards would brick up.
So there you heard YamWax bring up New Orleans. That would be one of my first choices, and John Keating agrees with him. And, I don't know whether they've looked into New Orleans or not. Maybe they have, and it just logistically don't work out. But love to see it, New Orleans. And I think I got Corey from YamWax and John Keating's vote on that city.
But don't you think that that's kind of and I'm just going to play devil's advocate for this because I've heard all I've interviewed, I call it all lame. I'm like, lame. I mean, they don't hold a lot of water. The arguments they make,
right,
which to them might be incredibly valid, don't hold any water to me because I'm sitting there going, look at what our hobby's done in the last 3, 4, even 5 years, not just the last 2 years really, but we've been growing for a while. It just, supernova explosion in 2020, but now you got dealers all over the country, and it's this new wave of people that aren't East Coast centric necessarily. Does that hold water anymore? I mean, I just go, no. Really, guys? I mean,
it's convenient. The reasons they state are convenient, but they're not necessarily, as you say, they don't hold water.
Well, and look, I like Ray. I have no issues with anybody at the National, but I wish they would be a little more open-minded to expanding, because if you think about part of the joy of going to the National is experiencing a new city or going to a ball game, because it's always in the middle of the summer. You can go to a different part. If they did San Francisco or they did Atlanta or...
Well, there's Mike basically kind of echoing how I feel with, I liking to see it in different cities, to see different cities as a person, different events going on, sporting events. So Mike thinks along the same lines as me. John Keating agrees. I think YamWax does too. And here you're going to hear John talk about St. Louis.
St. Louis would be great, and I'll tell you why. Because they have a big enough convention center, but what they have is a big old empty, Edward Jones Dome, which you could put card tables. I've been on that floor where when they pull the carpet up and it's just concrete underneath there. Imagine having tables in the middle of the stadium where the greatest show on turf was. You can easily do that. It's attached through a roll-up door to the main floor of the convention center. So there's a lot of options there. It's just they have to get out of their comfort zone. And how many people travel to the National now? A ton, right? Nobody's waiting for it to come around to their city. They're going to it. So I think some of the old excuses are no longer valid. There's a waiting list for dealers, I guess, right? From what I hear, and anyway, we need to maybe we could speak with a little louder to these folks to get them to do that, because Atlantic City isn't the option, or isn't the answer, if you ask me.
There's John's vote for St. Louis, and for John, I want to say, he said this to on his show. What he does for a living is he travels the country and the world to different arenas and convention centers. That's the line of work he's in, and so if anyone knows what these cities and venues are capable of, it's John Keating. He's not talking out his butt, if you know what I'm saying. He has experience, while maybe not for the National, he has experience in events and them taking place in these convention centers. He's walked the back hallways and the floor, and he knows what they're capable and not capable of. So when he talks about these things, he's just not, talking out his butt. He's got experience and some knowledge in this area. And so I think that's important to acknowledge.
And while we don't think that the Mint Collective, was the hobbyist event that we'd hoped something could be, it is inspiring to see new events pop up, whether it's them or another event that's going to succeed and maybe push the National, to have to think about not even the innovative ideas at the event, but just exploring new cities and new areas, because these other events will do that.
Right.
Great point right here by YamWax. Basically saying, if the National is not going to look at other venues, you're going to see a lot of these new shows, things like the Mint Collective, Culture Collision. There's a show in Sacramento with 14 autograph guests that I just got an advertisement for. They just had a card show at the Basketball Hall of Fame. There's a card show at Fenway Park here shortly. So all these new venues are getting card shows, and I agree with Yam right here, Corey. He's basically saying, kind of, if you get stuck in the mud or rest on your laurels, other people are going to take advantage of that or seize the opportunity. And I think the National should be sort of looking along those lines. I had Ray on a few weeks back, and he says, they've got a plan 2 years out from the National to, for that event. And I get it. And he's telling the truth. I'm not debating that fact, but why can't we negotiate 3 to 4 years out to a different city? And so I think that's what a lot of people, not just myself, Mike, Corey, and John, I think a lot of collectors and hobbyists and dealers too, just want to see it maybe in a different locale. Again, while we're going to the city for the National, for the show, it's a social event too, right? We're meeting our friends there. We're meeting people we know from the hobby. But the show closes 5 or 6 o'clock, right? Not every day is there a VIP party or a trade night, right? We want to do stuff in that city, whether it's a sporting event or another event, or just see the sights of the city. I love to see, what each city has to offer when I'm there. And anytime I travel, I always try to, whether it's the hot food spot, a landmark, a national landmark, depending on the city, I try to hit all that stuff because you never know when you'll get back to that city or if you'll get back to that city, right? Maybe the only time you're there. And so I try to take it all in besides, I'm a person besides a hobbyist and enjoy history, enjoy culture, and like to see stuff besides the cards. And so I love to see some new locales. I think people, I don't want to say they're getting upset, but I think the voices are getting louder. So with that being said, that's a good note to end on. We'll see you very soon. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/SportsCardNationPodcast/. Twitter, we are at SportsCardNati1, so it's SportsCard NATI1. Instagram, at SportsCardNationPodcast, or you can email the show, hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Thank you for listening, downloading, making it possible for this show to occur. So, we covered a lot of ground with, various locales and but again, keep in mind there are a lot of logistics that go into it. It's easy for me and others in the hobby, honestly, to say, hey, it should be here. I'd like to see it here. But I like to think that we can get it in more than 3 cities too, right? Just Cleveland, Chicago, and Atlantic City. I try to, as a hobbyist, as a person, I try to think about other people as much as I possibly can. And so while I'm getting to kind of take part in the spoils of it being close to me in Atlantic City, I'm also thinking, if I'm in California, that's a trip. And I want this hobby to be available to as many people as possible, whoever wants to partake in it. So I like to see it move around, even if that means me having to travel more than I would, let's say, this year. And, I'm fine with that. I think, there's more options that can be done. So, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you soon on another episode of Hobby Quick Hits on Mondays, and on Friday, another episode of Sports Card Nation, our interview podcast. And this week we have, on Friday for Sports Card Nation, we have Ty Wilson from Breaker Culture, Bench Clear Media, and he's going to be talking about a new show they're doing called Chasing Cardboard.